Hi guys, I'm Valley and I'm so excited to have you guys back here at the Adira channel. Well, apparently you guys enjoyed learning all about how women back in the day dealt with their reproductive differences, and so did I. So I went on a little research adventure to find out how women dealt with their periods during the Victorian era, and let me tell you, it was not pleasant. The Victorian era represents the period of Queen Victoria's reign. She ruled from June 20, 1837 up until her death on June 22, 1901. Though this period meant the British Empire growing to be a successful first global industrial power, it meant little to no education on how the female's reproductive system worked. Thanks to movies and TV shows, many people associate the Victorian woman as a very delicate being who would be incapable of doing any work with her menstruation present. Reality is, 19th century diaries give almost no indication of women taking time off during their periods, especially if they had children to feed. But one thing is for sure, it was far from comfortable. Historians generally conclude most medieval women used rags or other absorbent materials during heavy periods. Otherwise, many women would just free bleed into their clothes. There are reports of women even wearing diapers that weren't very comfortable, and the cloth would chafe off the inside of one's thighs and were very inconvenient at the time of using outhouses, chamber pots, or outdoors to use the bathroom. Sometime in the late 19th century, people started to figure out it wasn't very sanitary for a woman to bleed constantly into their clothes. This is where the history of menstruation products began. In 1888, the Lister towels were developed by Johnson & Johnson. Around the same time, women started using wood pulp bandages found in hospitals as disposable pads. It was a highly absorbent material generally used to bandage wounded soldiers, so it was cheap and worked well for menstrual flow. Eventually, the same material was used in the first Kotex pads. With the Hoosier sanitary belt from the 1890s, women could purchase washable pads that were attached to a belt around the waist. It was like suspenders for your pads. The serviettes or sanitary pads were made of cotton and marked as absolutely antiseptic and ready for instant use. Yes, and it looks as comfortable as it sounds. Menstrual periods were thought to cause all kinds of illnesses. They were thought to cause diseases like tuberculosis and cancer. While women kept on with their daily duties, they instead would avoid activities that could halt their flow. For example, getting chilled, bathing, doing the laundry in cold water, or working outside in cold or damp weather. Despite huge medical advances, in 1805, Dr. Thomas Denman wrote that menstruating women is often liable to periodical emissions of blood from the nose, lungs, ears, eyes, breast, navel, and almost every other part of the body. Not only that, but according to the book Victorian Women and Menstruation from the 1970s, in the first half of the century, it was generally believed that the menstrual flow came from an excess of nutrients in the female. Eggs were thought to descend from the ovaries only as a consequence of intercourse. To further instigate on the fact that women were incapable of carrying with their daily duties, in 1869, ardent anti-feminist James McGregor Allen addressed that man had surpassed women for the obvious reason that they do not interrupt their thoughts and application periodically. The notation reads, "Much of the inconsequent conduct of women, their petulance, caprice, and irritability may be traced directly to this cause. It is not improbable that instances of feminine cruelty, which startle us as so inconsistent with the normal gentleness of the sex, are attributable to mental excitement caused by this periodical illness." Michelet defines woman as an invalid, such she emphatically is as compared with men. In intellectual labor, men has surpassed, does now, and always will surpass women for the obvious reason that nature does not periodically interrupt his thought and application. Because it was considered dangerous, heavy bleeding required purging, opiates, and physical restriction. Dr. Althus wrote in 1848 that hysterical attacks almost always occur after a sudden suppression of the menstrual flow, called menstrual madness. This madness was so violent that sufferers were able to commit criminal acts of savagery. Due to this, treatments for menstrual madness were extreme. In 1868, Dr. John Burns recommended treatment for women during their monthlies that included opiates for pain and irritation, plugging the vagina, dry diet and increase of exercise, laxatives, use of whey or sulfuric acid if invigorated, styptic injections. People were convinced that during the menstruation period, women were said to be unwell, ill, out of order, and to the path to insanity. Many believed that all of this proved scientific evidence that women were not equal to men. They were irrational creatures and required constant supervision. The lack of menstrual understanding did not come until the early 20th century, and even now we know of places where menstruating individuals are shunned. Menstruation is still a taboo topic, even though we've grown out of the Hoosier sanitary belt. There is still education that can be provided to people around the world. And even though I can take personal charge of my menstruation and how I choose to live it, it's not the same for many people around the world. So, don't be afraid to talk and educate others and talk about the importance of menstruation. And remember, it is not shameful or dirty to menstruate. Thank you so much, guys, and I hope you found this video entertaining. If you liked this video, remember to like, comment, and share. And why don't you go ahead and tell us in the comments down below what other things you'd like to see from our channel. Thank you so much. Remember to visit us at www.adira.me or visit our social media to find out more about our project. Thank you, guys. Have an awesome rest of your day. Bye.